Welcome to the show. We are tuned in for real life stories with real life people who have overcome adversity and healed their life. I am your host, Victoria Johnson, teacher trainer and coach trainer for the Heal Your Life certification program and best-selling author of Do That and Then Some: Transform Feelings of Less Than to More Than Enough. As Louise Hay always said, the point of power is in the present moment, so let's get started. Good day, everyone, and welcome to our April 19th webinar. We are so excited to have you here with us today, and we are going to be sharing about our emotions and emotional responses and emotional support. And there is a lot to talk about on that subject. So I have a lot prepared, but I'm really interested to see where the conversation is going to go, because it is such an interesting topic, and I think we all have so much to contribute and to add value in conversation. So feel free to jump in whenever you like, unless I'm doing a meditation. Otherwise, feel free to jump in and share, because that's what this is really all about. And, you know, the group coaching is learning from each other and sharing. So again, thank you for joining me. And I am going to start with an opening meditation. And for those of you who are going to have some background noise, I would just ask that you mute your microphone if you're going to have background noise, but it looks like everybody's done that anyways. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So you can just take a moment and take a nice deep breath and maybe close your eyes if you like. I'm going to repeat the same message over a couple of times and then go into a short meditation. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. Spirit am I, free to forgive and free to save the world. Spirit am I. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. Spirit am I, free to forgive and free to save the world. Spirit am I. Spirit am I, free of all limits, safe and healed and whole. Spirit am I, free to forgive and free to save the world. In spirit, we are free, completely whole and loving. The center is always there, whether we are aware of it or not. But in our human form, the years of negative messages and not loving ourselves has hidden that place of perfection. As we uncover the old beliefs and transform them, the light of spirit shines within us more and more brightly. In this moment, feel that place of spirit within, totally loving and free of all limits. Just feel that place of spirit, totally loving, free of all limits. And so it is. When you're ready, you're welcome to just take another deep breath or two and open your eyes and return your attention back to this webinar this morning. It feels good to connect, doesn't it, to who we really are. Who we are. And, you know, one thing that I really wanted to focus on today was emotions. And a lot of times we describe ourselves through emotion. And, you know, we will get into that habit of I'm fine, or I'm okay, or I'm good, right? And just not actually feeling what we're feeling and really going there. So I want to offer you some tools today on helping you to recognize what some of the different emotions are, how to label them, some of the ones that you want to transform, how to step that up a little bit. We are going to be going through Esther and Abraham Hicks' emotional guidance scale and running through those emotions, which I find very helpful, and I think you will too. So I just wanted to mention about emotions, that a lot of times our emotions are a result of our beliefs. So we have an event, right? So say it's something really happy, maybe you have a family get together and you're really excited about it. And so you've really set yourself up for that family event with your emotions ahead of time, anticipating, knowing that it's going to be a wonderful celebration, knowing that it's going to be a loving environment. And so you go in that emotional mindset, right? Then we can take the exact same thing and we can have a family event coming up. Maybe we're dreading it and we're like, oh, I have to do this like 3 times a year and it kills me, right? And we are like, I'm sure that, Uncle Bill's going to be drinking and mom's going to be nagging and grandma's going to ask when I'm getting married, and all of these things. And we just set ourselves up for this negative experience beforehand. So again, the emotion is driving the behavior. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Okay. So that was my motivation to really talk about emotions in our life today, because what the emotions do is cause us to repeat the patterns. So using the example that I just gave, probably 20 years from now, if you're excited about, for example, family gatherings, you're still going to have that. Or if you're dreading it, you're still going to do that 20 years from now if you don't recognize the pattern in your life, right? So for some of us, like for myself, both my parents have passed away now. So family gatherings are different. So I could go into it with that feeling of, oh God, it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same. And I'm going to be sad. But I've chosen to make a shift. And I've chosen to decide that my family gatherings are going to be times when we remember mom and dad and we laugh and we talk about the ways that they used to say things and how parents do. They'll talk really good about one child to the other child and so on, right? So I set it up so that I'm going to be feeling good when I go in and have therefore changed that pattern in my life. Does anybody else have anything coming to mind of how they have changed their emotions around something that then changed their behavior around it? It's hard to come up with something on the spot, and I know I was putting you on the spot a little bit there. So sorry, I was just reading Annette's note there. So thank you for listening to my story on that. And we are going to talk a little bit about separating those thoughts, because the thought then drives the emotion, which drives the behavior, right? So we're going to talk about changing those thoughts, which is always such a beautiful place to be, especially within the Louise Hay work that we do with Heal Your Life. A lot of it is about changing our thoughts and using affirmations and visualizations and meditations and so on to do so. But before we do that, we have to be able to identify what that thought is. So when we come to separating thoughts from emotions, we talked about how we can get stuck in story. Then another thing that we do is catastrophizing. So you know what I'm talking about here, right? Where it's like, I have to give a speech, oh God, everybody's going to be staring at me. I'm probably going to be sweating and nervous. And what if I can't get the PowerPoint to work? They're all going to hate me. I'm probably going to lose my job. We just create this entire catastrophe, right? Through our thoughts. Then we have an emotional response. So we're nervous and we're stressed, when it comes time for the event, leading up to the event and all of those types of things. Then there's the mind reading component, right? Where with our thoughts, we're reading other people's minds and we're thinking that they're reading ours. So, for example, you meet a friend in the store and she just says hi and keeps walking, right? And you immediately go to, oh my God, she hates me. I wonder what I did. I must have done something wrong. Maybe it was that time that I took 2 hours to return her text, and we mind read for other people and make up these stories. When in fact, for all we know, she could have had an earbud in, been on the phone, really needed to be in her own isolation that day, been in a hurry, and it not been about you at all. Has anybody ever done that? I know I have. And then there's the fortune telling, right? Where we decide how the story is going to end. And, we're really just creating a scenario that is only in our imagination. So similar to catastrophizing, but just more on that mindset, right? And the all or nothing thinking. And I know this is something that I've really had to work on, is mastering that, or learning, still learning, I'm not going to say mastering, the all or nothing thinking. So, I'm either all in or I'm all out. And just really learning that, sometimes I'm expecting too much of myself and trying to find a more balanced perspective of looking at things. There's jumping to conclusions. There's overgeneralizing, inappropriate blaming, discounting the positives. And this is something that I wanted to expand on a little bit as well. How many times have, either it's happened to you or you've noticed it in someone else, you may say, I really like the dress you're wearing. And then be like, oh, it's fitting kind of tight. I don't really feel good in it, or I had it 5 years ago, or it's a hand-me-down, or, whatever, just accepting that positivity, right? Or sometimes around weight loss, somebody's like, hey, you're looking really great, really fit. Have you lost weight? Yeah, I've lost 10 pounds, but I still need to lose 40. Just not embracing that positivity. So another is those using those shoulds. And we talk about that a lot in Heal Your Life and Louise Hay work, is that should word, right? So should is, placing blame or guilt, either you are wrong, you were wrong, you're going to be wrong, and so there's the should that we put on ourselves, and then there's the should that we put on people. People should do this, people should do that. And so just becoming aware of that thinking, because it does cause an emotional and behavioral response with it as well. So, but in order to really recognize the emotions, I think we have to have a really good vocabulary on emotions. And I'm really excited to share something with you here. I'm going to go on to share screen, and you can find this and download this really easily. You go to thework.com, but I'm just going to share it with you now. So thework.com is the work of Byron Katie, and she, just 1 second here, I need to try and move this. There we go. And she, her work is all on, the emotions and changing your emotions and patterns around it. And so, for example, she'll say, when something comes up and you have this emotional response, is it true? Are you absolutely certain that it's true? And then how do you react, or what happens when you believe that thought? So this is a really beautiful and extensive list of emotions. And I use this a lot in my coaching practice. And, for those of you who are coaches, this is a great tool for you. For those of you who are doing your own personal growth work, this is a great tool for you as well. So she has a lot of downloads on there right under the home button. So go ahead and, do those free downloads. So how do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? Does anybody want to participate on, and we can work through a scenario on this? Just to let you know, you'll have to speak because I can't see all of you right now on my screen.
Yeah, I can do that, Victoria.
Sarah. Okay, great. So if you could think of something that maybe has happened recently that has brought up one of these emotions in you, angry, depressed, confused, helpless, indifferent, afraid, hurt, sad, judgment.
I think I can say confused and judgment.
Okay. And so then if you go down the list a little bit, all right, can you narrow it down a little bit more?
Under confused, I can say doubt, unsure, tense. I really feel that in my gut.
Yes.
And but at the same time, it says dishonesty. Because I'm consciously working on this confusion, so I keep reminding myself that be honest, be honest. Know that you trust. You know that you believe in the way that you have entered already. So I keep reminding myself about that.
Good. Anything else coming up?
And about judgmental, obsessive, sometimes really serious. I become really serious about life.
Yeah.
Different times. I think, yeah, sometimes I'm unfair about myself. I forget my achievements during time. And I think this makes me judgmental about my now and my future. When I keep reminding myself of the achievements I have, it becomes less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's it.
Good. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to get you to work with me onto this next step here too.
Sure.
So who would I be without that thought? And to everyone else on the call and anyone who's listening, I really encourage you to go to the website and thework.com and print this out because you can use this in so many situations and it'll really help you. It's just such a good tool. So who would you be without the thought? So Sarah, whatever scenario that you're speaking of right now, that I get the feeling that maybe it's some self-judgment and some self-doubt.
Yes.
Okay. So who would you be without the thought?
I would say loving, happy, interested, positive. Most of them are included in there. Peaceful, strong, relaxed. Actually, I'm usually open, so I have this feeling all the time. But when I become unfair about myself or I judge myself so much, I think this openness level comes down. So I can say all of them.
Okay. Yeah. And as you read through those words, and to everyone else on the call as well, like I'm just going to pick random words. Listening, present, caring, allowing, ecstatic, satisfied, inquisitive, curious, thrilled, spirited, wonderful, keen, earnest, encouraged, surprised, bright, blessed, assured, energized, sane, complete, mature, solid, confident, rested, waiting, laughing, graceful, natural. Just reading those words changes the emotion, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Right? Changing the thought, changing the emotion. And, some of the things we have to work through repeatedly and on a much deeper level and dig deeper. But sometimes just choosing a higher vibration thought is what will bring us out and bring us back into that confident place where we are more assured.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's really important to be able to identify the emotions. And she's done a great job here of listing, the emotions, positive and negative. How do you react? What happens when you believe that thought? Who would you be without the thought? And then the other piece that I wanted to share, and before I do that, I'm going to go back to see you all. The other piece that I wanted to share is just to do a little bit of self-exploration. And so if we can just take a minute right now and think about, how do I feel right now? And sometimes our tendency is to go immediately towards the physical, right? Oh, my back's a little sore, or I'm a little tired. Sometimes it's I'm a little hungry, no energy, but just touching base with yourself. How do you feel right now? Just trying to put, an emotion on that. How do you feel right now? So then I want to go to the emotional guidance scale. Can you kind of find yourself what you were feeling right now on this scale? So what I want to encourage you to do is to reach for the next highest. So, maybe if you came in at 14 at worry, if you could just maybe transform that one step higher into a feeling of doubt, right? Just one step, right? And some of the ways that we can move up a level in the emotional guidance scale is just by using the power of our mind, just by deciding that we're going to reach higher and higher. But there's also some tools that I have that I want to share with you. And one of them is, to kind of have a plan for when you're feeling down or when some of these feelings come up. How are you going to deal with them? Also knowing, like what we talked about last week, about having, a daily practice. A daily practice will always raise that vibration in the emotional guidance scale. Maintaining a gratitude journal. And, it's just such a simple thing to do. And I think we try and make things complicated sometimes. And so, a gratitude journal can simply be, a 39-cent scribbler from the dollar store where you keep in point form things that you're grateful for. Or it can be the most deluxe and beautiful journal, and you can write long paragraphs. It's whatever you want it to be, but it doesn't have to be hard and, or difficult. It can be the easiest little thing. It can be Post-it notes on your fridge, right? It can just be whatever you want it to be.
Victoria, if you want some feedback, I can
yes,
share
please.
with you process I went through this morning already.
Okay, I would love that.
Okay, I woke up and I have a couple big things going on in my life that I'm healing through, and one felt very, very heavy. Just so heavy, and a lot of worry and hopelessness, like a lot of negativity, and my body's inflamed because like my body's carrying this, right? So before I came to the call, I'm like, okay, first, so I meditated and I did some prayer, and then I tapped. I went and found my tap. I tapped for 15 minutes before I got on the call. My body calmed down, and I've included, there's some big things that are out of my control, like, surrendering to my higher power, right? So I've included those in my affirmations. And one I have is, I am okay with people not knowing my side of the story. I approve of myself.
Oh, that's powerful.
So I've just really, really been committed to approving of myself. And if somebody wants to know about my story, they can ask me. But I've, like just letting things be. So that was all on me. So this morning, and then I thought, if I look at all the teachings I've been given and everything I've done, it's like, what's happening right in this moment? Nothing. I'm safe. I am well. I am connected to these tools I've learned and can use. I forced myself to come on this call. I could have not come, but I chose to come. So when the canoe's coming by with the help, you can jump in.
Yes, thank
So
you.
all that happened for me this morning, and even I could have not shared, but I chose to share in this moment. Like I keep choosing to stay with the light and let the outcome go. So I feel really good in this moment. But it took all that work to get here, but that's okay. It is what it is.
And I honor you for everything that you do in that. And thank you so much for sharing that story, and also for sharing when the canoe is coming by with help, get in the canoe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And stay with the light. And that is something that, Esther Hicks and Abraham talk about as well, is, that we want to go through life in the canoe, downstream, just, floating on by, enjoying life. But so often we choose to paddle upstream.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exhausting. And it just, it brings about so much for us in terms of our emotions and struggle. And struggle is something that we really want to drop and hang on to, of course, the joy.
Mm-hmm.
Those topics.
So I moved from, my numbers, I was at like 16, mm-hmm. and I am sitting in 5 and 6 now.
Excellent. So that's a transformation.
And I'm choosing happiness today.
Yes.
I'm like, I can, even if I have to remind myself like 100 times or whatever today, I'm choosing it.
And that's exactly it. It is always a choice. And I think that's an amazing example too of how you jumped up whatever 10 or whatever points it was, 15 points on this emotional guidance scale within a period of, say, 2 hours,
mm-hmm.
because you chose to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And getting through these things and raising ourselves up into a higher vibration is just as simple as honoring ourselves, mm-hmm. right? Just taking that time to honor ourselves. And, sometimes even something as simple as treating ourselves, whether it's some time alone, or a bath, or a walk, or, a favorite food that makes you feel good, whatever those things are, just having those really positive habits that Annette has already cultivated and has in her toolbox. I think that's a really good thing to think about today, is what tools are in my toolbox,
mm-hmm.
right? So that you can draw upon them in those moments of discouragement. I encourage you also to raise your vibration by finding the fun in things, right? I think we often, I know I do this, take myself too seriously. And I'm letting that go. That's something that I'm working on, and learning to find the fun, learning to find the laughter and the joy in situations, and just knowing that life is full of surprises for me, and how I choose to see them is up to me. And another thing that you can do to raise your vibration is being of service to other people. Don't you find that when you have helped someone, that you just automatically feel better? Right? It really helps that way. And this next one here, you might laugh at a little bit, but it really, really works. And it is just changing your physiology, like where you can adapt like a Wonder Woman pose, or Superman, or, your favorite superhero pose, like just stand up and get in that pose. I find sometimes just like standing up and raising my hands above my head, or opening my arms up really wide, just those types of things will actually help me to change the thought, to change the emotion, to change the behavior. And of course, visualizing your best feeling self is always something that's really fun to do. Just going there to that joy, knowledge, empowerment, freedom, love, appreciation, and visualizing yourself in that place. It feels good. It feels good. I would love to hear if any of you have been using the emotional guidance scale through Abraham Hicks and what your experiences have been.
Can I start?
Yes, please, Sarah.
I've checked that list and I found myself in 2 or 1.
Mm-hmm.
And I really feel good with that because I put a lot of effort to reach that level. And during these days, especially because I'm doing my test and it's going to finish and I'm going to have a new path in front of me. So I have some nervousness. And what made me stay unfocused and be the Sarah that I always think about, I usually do the mirror work that Louise says, and it really helps me because when I'm into my head, the obsessive thoughts come up, and it's like my ego is getting more powerful, and it is leading me. So I go in front of the mirror, start talking, and it's like my inner child is talking to me. And I'm putting that ego away, and it's like the ego is standing, listening, and now it's the turn for the, I call her small Sarah because it's in her, she's inside me. So she starts talking and she talks about all the beliefs that she has about the future. So when I do that, I feel calm and I feel the trust. And it's like I'm living that life that I wanted now in the present moment. And there is no doubt anymore. And when I go into the real life that others are, the ego starts getting more powerful again. And I need to balance that. I need to tell that ego to listen to that inner voice and just calm down. I don't want you anymore to talk with a high volume to me.
Yes. So using the mirror work, is a really great way for raising your emotions and also being aware of what they are. I think that, there's a lot of times in society where we will fall into this false positivity and think, I should always be happy. I should always be joyful. And so, by doing that mirror work, you're allowing yourself to really connect with what your true feelings are as well, and then working through them, which I really appreciate. Does anyone else have anything they want to share on that subject? I'd love to hear more.
I don't really memorize everything there, which you're talking about, Victoria, but I go neutral, like I've learned with Abraham Hicks to, if there's a lot of negativity coming up or, things are happening, I've learned to go neutral.
Yes.
Like just recognize it and feel it and, but not go with it, and then I just go neutral and I really take care of myself. So
that's a great tool. And that's something also that, they teach in the Course of Miracles is that we are the one who labels things as good and bad, positive and negative. And we put the meaning behind when something happens. So by going neutral and knowing, that all things are neutral, then, we can detach a little bit and stay within ourselves and stay within spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else want to share? Okay, so I just want to show you that I have printed I just downloaded it as a graphic from Google, right? Just the emotional guidance scale. And so you can print it off and then you always have it, throw it in your purse, wherever it might be, just always reaching for that higher emotion, right? Acknowledging where you're at, reaching that higher emotion, or like Annette pointed, even before you go there, going neutral. And I saw your comment, Michelle. I like neutral. Neutral is good. Okay, so there's also little 1-minute transformers that we call them that we can use to reach for a higher emotion when we're looking for support. And again, remembering all the things that you're grateful for, just like literally taking 1 minute to do that. Practicing conscious deep breathing, scanning your body for tension, and breathing and releasing it. Like Sarah said, going to the mirror, saying, I love you. Acknowledging your emotions and feelings, about whatever it happens to be. Forgiving yourself or someone else. Telling someone that you appreciate them. Just sharing that with other people, I find really lifts the person up. Writing down a creative idea. Finding something that you think is beautiful. Whether it be a flower in your house or a pattern on a plate, whatever it is, just appreciating that beauty. And then really dropping down like we did at the beginning of this call and really feeling that presence of spirit in your life. What do you find is the most prevalent emotion showing up in your life, right now, over the last few weeks?
For me, it's judgment and criticism.
And so would that be judgment of yourself, of other people?
It appears to be of others. And then if I go deeper, it's of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
And so, yes, please.
I just keep reminding myself that there's no right or wrong. There's just a whole lot of different going on.
Yes. Yeah, and it is a unique time. And I know there is a lot of judgment and criticism happening in society, period. It's an easier place to go, right? It's an easier place to go to, for example, judge our politicians or our neighbors or the 50 people lined up at Home Hardware, than it is to really take ourselves into that loving space and just know that we are always safe and divinely guided, and out of the situation only good will come, that we're always protected. And so, just doing what you're doing right now, recognizing where you're at, that's how you shift the behavior. And like we shared in that screen share earlier, who would I be without this thought? So if you're in a place of self-judgment, who would I be without this thought? And just over time, recognizing it's taken some time to put these patterns into our lives, right? I know for me, I've had some patterns running for decades, right? So it takes time to reverse the pattern as well. So being loving and kind and patient with yourself as you transform that pattern into, the more positive frame of mind, the more healing frame of mind, the more self-loving frame of mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to add? And thank you for sharing that. I know that's a difficult thing to share, but I can tell you that probably every single person on this call has been feeling the same thing. So thank you for sharing that. Michelle and Heike, I'll get to you in just 1 second. I just want to say a little thing about criticism, which is Louise always taught that criticism doesn't fix anything. And I remind myself of that all the time because it's just so easy to fall into, especially self-criticism. And she talks about how we've been criticizing ourselves for the same thing for years, decades even. And has it helped? Has it worked? No, right? Not if we're still doing it. Not if we're still criticizing ourselves for it. So obviously, the criticism does not work. So just changing that behavior and flipping it over into a place more of self-love and self-acceptance and adding in that mirror component if we need to, and just really, really connecting with our true selves, our true essence, our true spirit. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, are you there?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Well, this week I really had a really rough week because it was the anniversary of my partner's death. So that being said, it was more the fear of, I know that in myself, like my true self, I'm ready to kind of put it forward and move forward with it. But I had that fear of, by me moving forward, does that mean that I'm forgetting him and, not keeping his memory cherished? But knowing that it is time, it's been a year of mourning, a couple of years of mourning, and I think it's just time, and just kind of working through everything and looking in the mirror and saying that you can be loved again, and there's love out there to give. And if the more I can give out, the more that I feel is actually coming back to me. So it's been quite the week, and it's finding a whole new life and a whole new, I'm moving, and it's kind of hard to find people in the midst of COVID to help you move. So really digging deep and doing this on my own and having to go through everything. And it's really been a life-changing kind of a week. So it's that fear and anxiousness, and being able to look at yourself and calm yourself down.
Yes.
So.
And thank you so much for sharing, again, the personal details. I really appreciate that. And, I think that probably everyone on the call can really relate to grief. I don't know what it's like to lose a partner. I've lost my parents and I've lost a sister, but I don't know what it's like to lose a partner. And I know that that's probably a completely different feeling. But what I do know is that you can make the choice to still remember, but to let go of the pain. And when we do this, when we decide, I have on April 28th is the anniversary of my father's death. So that's coming up in 9 days. And I've already thought about it, how I want to make it a day where I just remember all of the really great things and forget about how sick he was and so on. And so I would encourage you to, in the week, around your partner's passing, just remembering all of those really good times and the smiling and the laughter and you know what, sometimes tears are going to come, and that's okay too. That's part of the healing. And I think we often, as human beings, we want to put a timeline on our grief. We certainly don't want to be stuck in it, but we want to move through it. And so I think you're doing an amazing job at what you're doing. You're aware of your emotions, and you're moving forward with your emotions, but you're not leaving him behind. So I congratulate you on that, Michelle.
Thank you. We sometimes like to use that pain, as the grieving pain, as punishment to ourselves, instead of, they didn't do that, or they didn't pass away to punish us. So we shouldn't be punishing ourselves with the pain of it. Yes. It happened, and it's time to work through it, not just leave it as a barrier for you to live your life now.
Right. And connecting in meditation too, with, the people who have gone on before us, who are now our spirit guides, really connecting with them and knowing that we are still, as spiritual beings, bonded.
Yeah, that's true. Awesome. Yeah. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else want to share about different emotions that have been coming out? Heike, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I can be pretty good here. We're in our little bubble. It's Vancouver Island. We had incredible weather. We keep busy. I do my exercise, just like some of you said. But occasionally, and last night was an extreme case. Have anyone of you watched that concert on TV, that music concert that was put together? We're all in this together. Beautiful music put together. And in between, people spoke, like Michelle Obama, and then the leader of the World Health Organization. And they showed all these scenes in the United States and bigger cities of what's going on there. And all of a sudden, it hit me like, I just was a puddle. Because here, I don't really see it, luckily. Like we're in a healthy bubble here still. But then I went through what these doctors must feel, and the nurses, that, they're the last persons for many people that have died that they have seen, and the families coming. And that hit me so bad. And that, I don't know, I can't take away that pain, but then it's hard for me to get out of that, of sadness. And if I keep talking, I start crying here. That is hard for me.
Yeah. You know what, though, Heike? I'm going to encourage you to just, when those feelings hit, of compassion and empathy, to stay with them, and just let yourself feel them. And I know it's hard. I had a meltdown the other night and cried big ugly tears. Not the pretty crying at all. and it's okay, to have those, but to know that you can make the choice to return to your happy place, right? And to be part of the positive vibration that is healing the world, be part of the love that is healing the world. And I do believe that our emotions, what we put out there, really does make a difference. And we can be a huge part of healing the planet by staying in that love vibration. And just, really remembering everyone, but sending them, instead of getting caught in the anxiety and the fear of the situation, sending them love and healing energy. Yes. Michelle, go ahead.
Hi, Key. I just wanted to say something too, because I'm going to well up too, but I was actually with a doctor yesterday. He actually was one of the people helping me. And I was just like, you are working on the front lines. He's a cardiologist and a lung specialist in Abbotsford, BC here in Canada. And it was 7:00 and all of a sudden I had heard everybody banging their pots and pans out the windows. And I turned to him. I'm like, that's for you guys. And he stood there and he said, you know what? He's like, you should see the hospitals at 7 p.m. when we know what time it is, because there's a vibration that goes through the hospital and it gives everybody this huge boost of energy. And he's like, sometimes we don't hear it, we don't look at our watches, but you can feel it. And he said, the patients feel it, the doctors, the nurses feel it. So when you do put out that love energy, they are feeling it. I mean, it was just kind of remarkable. I was like at 7 p.m. and everybody's banging, and he's like, we feel it when we're working. And so putting out that vibration, it really does help.
Yeah.
So let the tears out, but still be joyful in them.
Thanks.
They're working hard to try and help it.
Good.
And I really appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's important that we recognize, again, we're talking about emotions today, the difference between empathy and compassion and fear and anxiety. Just really putting ourselves, into that place where we are able to stay in a healthy environment with our thoughts, with our feelings, our behaviors, our emotions. Does anyone else want to share? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about resetting your negative emotions and beliefs. And I'm going to share a story from my growing up years. So I was a bit of a tomboy, and I have a really adventurous spirit. And so I love to try new things. And because of that, I, all through my growing up years and my high school years, and even, in my 20s, and just trying new things. But if I didn't love it, I quit it and tried something else, right? And so, I might decide that I'm going to learn to play the trumpet. And then 2 weeks later, I might decide that I actually want to play the trombone. And so a message that I heard all through my childhood growing up and even into my 20s was, you never finish anything you start. You never finish anything you start, just over and over and over again. And then eventually I used that as a form of self-sabotage, right? So when I started doing something and the going got a little bit tough, I would just be like, oh, I'll just quit like I always do, right? I don't finish things I start. I don't even know if it was on a conscious level that I was doing that, but I was definitely sabotaging myself doing that exact same thing. And so because of that, I really robbed myself from a lot of successes and for following through with things that I was truly interested in, truly wanted to do, because I saw myself as someone who failed. Looking back now, I can tell you that I see the adventure, that I was always chasing adventure. But at the time, I saw myself as someone who fails. And so whether or not the belief was realistic or the belief was true, it was my belief. And so, I had to do the work to train myself to break that pattern. And I was able to do so. And so now when I think about things, I don't have to attach that emotion anymore. I don't have to attach the emotion of fear of failure. I can just know that, hey, I'm going to do this. If I find partway through I'm not enjoying it, or my interest has changed, or it's not serving me anymore, I can shift, and it's okay. It does not make me a quitter. It does not make me a failure. It doesn't put, my mother's voice in my ear anymore like it used to. But again, this is a learned behavior that I had, and I had to practice to transform that feeling, to transform the thoughts, which then transformed the feeling and the emotion, which then transformed the behavior. And so just wanted to share that with you as an example. I have another example that I want to share with you that I think a lot of us will be able to relate to. So often, those of us who are drawn to heal your life work, or any healing modality, we're people who really feel things deeply. And so another example I have is a client of mine in business, and she was getting trampled over by her staff. And, she had these messages of, I want everyone to like me. I don't want to be mean. I don't want to, I'm scared to reprimand them, and so on. And so what happened is that it then produced this emotional response where she was even dreading going in to work in her own office because of what was happening in there, right? So once she learned to recognize this behavior, right, and she learned that it is okay as a loving and caring person to still, write a harsh email correcting a behavior, that's okay, right? It's totally okay to be able to be loving and gracious and kind people and still have our boundaries in place. And, her programming was she had to always just be that way, to always just be the person who gave and gave and gave, and not the person who set boundaries. And now she's developed into this amazing leader. And, it's really beautiful to watch. And she still is that beautiful, caring, loving person, but she has changed the emotion, which again has changed the behavior. So I think that's probably enough examples that you are getting kind of where I'm going here. And, just the self-care to our emotional state, whatever that emotional state happens to be at the moment. So, for example, what Heike was saying last night, her emotional state this morning, even as she starts to talk about her emotional state, just the self-care around that, right? It's knowing it's okay to feel your feelings, and it's okay to share them, and it's okay to have them. And when you do recognize what behaviors that you want to change, I would encourage you to make a list and say, okay, these are some areas that I'm identifying in my life. And it might not be a list that you can sit down and make, in 30 minutes. It might be a list that, you do over a month, right? Or 2 months, where you're just identifying things that you would like to change in yourself. Like I identified my pattern of quitting things. And then just as you work through that behavior, making yourself a bit of an accountability system where you are going to say, okay, this is how I am going to work through this. I am going to practice, an affirmation around this every day. I'm going to do this affirmation 10 times every day, in the mirror, or I am going to visualize myself with a different behavior. And just really learning to drop that emotion around it, making that simple contract with yourself that this is what I'm willing to do for myself to change this behavior, and to raise my emotion, to raise my vibrational scale. Going back to what we were talking about with Abraham's emotional scale. And, I hope that today has given you some tools that you can use to work through emotions and to support yourself And also, what's really important is to find that support from others, showing up on calls like this, really connecting with your tribe, knowing that there are a cajillion loving people out there who have a very similar mindset as you, and let them support you. Ask for help. Do whatever it is you need to do to take care of you. And know that you're not changing because what you're doing is bad. You're changing because you're growing and just loving yourself through the process. I have a short meditation to do with you to end our webinar today. Is there anyone who wanted to share before I go into that? Okay, so I'm going to go into that right away here. I just want to say I'm looking forward to seeing you next Sunday as well. We're going to talk about healthfulness next Sunday. So we're going to go back to talking about our health, which I'm really excited about. There's so much to share on that topic as far as, our physical selves, our energy, and so on. And so for today, and for the people who are listening to this later, I just want to thank you for being here. And I'm going to ask you now just to get yourself as comfortable as you can. Just gently close your eyes and breathing deeply and easily. And today we're really going to focus our attention on our breathing. So some nice deep breaths. Sometimes it's nice to breathe into a count of 4 and out to a count of 6. So we can do that together, breathing in 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhaling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So really fully exhaling when we do that. We can do it once more. Inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhaling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now, as you breathe in, thinking to yourself, I am. As you breathe out, thinking, relax. Doing this several times. I am. Relax. I am. Relax. Just let your shoulders and your jaw and your back relax and let go. And beginning at the top of your head, just move your consciousness slowly down through your body. You're scanning for any tension. Any place that you're feeling tension in your body, just pause and imagine breathing in relaxation to that part of your body and breathing out any tension to that part of your body. We're going to stay here for a few breaths. Any place that you feel tension, pause and imagine breathing in relaxation to that part of your body and breathing out the tension. Feel yourself becoming more and more relaxed, peaceful, and happy. Relaxed, peaceful, and happy. Returning to the thought, I am relaxed. And when you are ready, I just want you to think about how you were able to change the way you were feeling by just doing this short exercise. You are able to change your emotion. You're able to support yourself. And know that anytime during any day, you can take a moment and do this and just return your body to this state. I am relaxed. I am peaceful. I am happy. When you're ready, you can just open your eyes and just return your attention back to this call. Doesn't that feel good? Yeah, it really does. So I just want to encourage you throughout the following week to continue to practice on with a meditation like that. Be kind to yourself, be loving, be supportive. Be aware of those emotions and always be reaching for the higher emotion, knowing that there is always room to grow. There's always room to love ourselves even more. Remembering to send love out to the entire planet, to healing every heart that is in this world, just to be sending love, that high frequency vibration. And again, I thank you for joining me today. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Victoria.
Thank you, Victoria. Blessings.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Nice
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Bye now. Thank you, Cecilia.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to become an internationally certified Heal Your Life teacher and coach, please visit thetraining.ca. To be a guest on the show and share your story, please visit victoriajohnson.org. Thank you so much for joining us.